Thanks, Dan. Today marks 1,454 days since the 2020 scholars got their ties and badges. So it's fair to say I'm pretty happy to be here. I wanted to start with a question to you all. How did the 2019 Australian bushfires impact the USA pet food market, and what does that have to do with crickets? We'll circle back to that later. In 2019, when applying for a Nuffield Scholarship, insects weren't even classed as an emerging industry, so I thought it might be a bit tough to find a potential sponsor. I would like to acknowledge and thank the WA Nuffield alumni for stepping up and sponsoring my scholarship. I will forever be grateful for the opportunity to learn, grow and engage with so many like-minded people. I'd also like to thank the Peel Development Commission for a regional economic development grant to support my scholarship, and to acknowledge and thank the businesses and professionals I've interviewed around the world since 2019. There's nothing like a presentation to realise that you're overdue for a family portrait session. They say a family that plays together stays together, so this is my family a few weeks ago hiking in the Perth Hills. I want to thank my husband, Rowan, for supporting my crazy ideas, but also keeping me grounded when the next crazy one pops up. And I'm sure some of you can relate. A big thank you to my mum for running around and keeping everything going while I've been away. And to my two girls, thanks for understanding. To my local community, it takes a village, and I'm really fortunate to be part of a great one. A snapshot of the global and national insect industry. In 2020, estimates put the value of global insect market to be around $500 million. Not much when you think about traditional agriculture. We're expecting it to grow to more than $3 billion within the next 5 years. But bringing it back to Australia, in 2020, AgriFutures projected the national insect industry would aim to be around a $10 million industry by 2025. And for context, this includes soldier fly larvae, maggots, beetles, mealworms, crickets and native insects. Today, my presentation will focus primarily on crickets for the human food market. I could talk about everything all day, but we've got to keep it small. So these cute little guys, they are around 3 weeks old. The sound never gets boring. We absolutely love it. And we love going into the shed on days to check these guys out. They're 69% protein per 100 grams. We love the chirping, as it means it's business time. Once fertilised, each female can lay up to 1,000 eggs. Those eggs then get put into an incubator, and around 7 days later, they're hatched. They go into a container, and the cycle starts all over again. It takes approximately 8 weeks from hatching to harvest. Cricket farming has a particular smell, a bit like most farming enterprises. It's quite earthy and sweet, and the minute that you open the shed door, you certainly know if there's a problem. There have been many challenges, including high input costs such as labour and energy, and plenty of government red tape. For example, when we started, we couldn't get human food approval, as all the policies were to keep insects out of food, and we wanted to make them food. Other red tape, once we got through that one, was they said we could only purchase our crickets from a registered breeder. There is no such thing. So we would solve one problem only to encounter another, and given the nature of the industry, there weren't many resources available, thus the need for my Nuffield Scholarship. I assume my Nuffield journey would showcase all we needed to do was learn what some technology was needed, get some investment, come back, scale the production, and the world would be our oyster. And then COVID hit. I'm sure you're going to hear a lot about COVID. COVID not only challenged our business, but it impacted cricket businesses around the world. Like most industries, the cricket industry was not immune to increased costs, including transport, importing, exporting, and manufacturing. COVID also challenged my scholarship, both in terms of travel and my enthusiasm. So I interviewed small to large-scale cricket businesses in Canada, Australia, the UK and Asia. It was also important to interview other emerging industries such as aquaculture, hemp and regenerative farming. I really wanted to draw on their learnings and lessons they've learnt from starting their industries. I spoke to industry stakeholders, including investment firms, government and customers. Some of you may be familiar with these little cardboard cartons, as they look very similar to your wine box holders. But these ones are what we call cricket condos. They house the crickets. This is Entomo Farms in Canada. This looks like a pretty typical labour-intensive cricket production system. And on the top, you can see the rectangle cream things. That's a high-protein, high-calcium dry food mix. You may also notice there's not much water. That's because they don't need much water at all for survival. So my key findings whilst visiting Entomo Farms were they deliberately chose to lease old poultry barns instead of purchasing existing infrastructure. They wanted to concentrate their manufacturing facility and keeping it up to HACCP guidelines and making it a state-of-the-art facility. Pre-COVID, they exported to over 12 different countries. However, during COVID, both importing countries, rising costs, exporting countries, the cost was just too high, so they had to concentrate on the domestic market and also change from a human food business to more of an alternative protein for the boutique pet food industry. This is the Rolls-Royce or the Amazon warehouse of the cricket world. Welcome to Aspire Food Group in London, Canada. It's a $110 million fully automated facility using artificial intelligence, auto storage and retrieval systems and advanced manufacturing. Aspire Food Group opened this facility in 2022 and my key findings after visiting them were they looked all around the world to set up a suitable facility. The major reason they chose Canada was the Canadian government provided significant funding of up to $35 million towards this project. The project aligned with sustainable agriculture, advanced manufacturing and new industry. So some of my findings were, much like most industries, you should start small and develop markets as the business grows. It's important to invest in alternative energy. Crickets need to stay at a constant temperature and humidity 24/7. So as you can imagine, your electricity bill goes up pretty quick. Even though you start small, it's important to understand the global market, including risks such as disease and biosecurity. Collaboration is key, both within the insect industry, but also with alternate industries such as artificial intelligence and technology. So important that our industry also works with government and key stakeholders. Common themes across other industries, regardless of their size, were identifying markets isn't enough. You need to develop, establish, and build on those markets. Nutritional education, trust in branding, and social media is paramount. In the picture here, we've got Shoebugs on the right. They're a South Australian producer of crickets in Loxton. They're broadacre farmers, and they've, don't have many followers, but because they're so transparent on their YouTube channel, it just shows customers go to them first and intentionally. They only supply the pet food market at this stage. Their long-term goal is human food, but their point of difference is they've got their branding, their transparency, and their customer profile lined up to take the next stage of the business. We need to constantly improve our systems and our processes, and it always comes down to cash flow. It's so important to know your numbers now, but also into the future. Many cricket farms traditionally supplying the human food market prior to COVID either ceased to exist during COVID or found alternative markets like the boutique pet food industry. This has also created opportunities such as purchasing intellectual property, increasing market share and testing new products. So during COVID, a lot of businesses went out of the industry, but other businesses really capitalised on it and bought businesses out, bought existing brands out, and also there was enough space in the market to just try new products. It was very interesting. Within the cricket industry, biosecurity and disease are a considerable threat that I don't think productions are taking seriously, and there's not much communication between producers. Collaboration amongst industry is essential. We need to supply the markets, and right now, if someone rings and asks me for 1 tonne of crickets, I can't supply that, but if 5 of us got together, we could supply that. Government incentives such as match funding, like Aspire Food Group, are paramount. Food safety plans and support is needed, and also the AgriFutures Research and Development and Extension Plan. Key stakeholders, including the Insect Protein Association, Food Standards Australia and AgriFutures, need to continue to work with industry to bring us all up together. So how did the 2019 Australian bushfires impact the USA pet food market, and what does that have to do with crickets? The Australian bushfires resulted in a shortage of kangaroo meat being supplied to the USA pet food market. So this developed a shortage of pet protein in the US. During that time, the Canadian cricket producers had a shortfall because they were changing from the human food market to the pet food market, and they managed to step up and fill the gap. They were looking at entering the USA pet food market for a few years before COVID. However, it wasn't until there was a gap in the market and they needed it that they could enter on a commercial scale. What I did miss in my slide about Entomo Farms was they're producing over 9,000 tonnes of crickets per year, so they had the volume to supply that market. This example shows just how volatile the insect market can be, the challenges, but how many market opportunities are out there if you're ready to take action. So my key message is to ensure industry is proactive, collaborative, transparent and supported by government. It sounds easy, but what does that mean to myself and my business? Well, things that I'm going to do is I'm stepping up to put my hat in the ring to be on the Insect Protein Association of Australia board. I'm becoming more engaged within my local Regional Development Commission. I plan on giving the WA Nuffield Committee a hand. But what I'd also like to challenge each and every one of you in this room is what can you do within your industries in reflection of our key message? If not you, then who? And if not now, then when? So what's next? Well, I did manage to bring some cricket samples for you. So when you're on the way out to lunch, you can feel free to try some cricket protein balls. Crickets are classed as a crustacean, so they do have a shellfish allergy, and they also have nuts in them. What's next for our business? We'd really like to investigate a bit what John was saying earlier about precision nutrition, nutraceuticals. How can insects and crickets in particular be a functional ingredient? And we might just go into the alternative milk market. So what you're about to see next is full of facts, but it is tongue-in-cheek.
As dairy farmers, we know a thing or two about milk. That's why we're giving these guys the day off and making something a bit different. With half the water, half the gas, and more calcium than regular milk, we've come up with a new alternative. Same green pastures, same rich nutrients, same great taste. Made daily from the nutrient-rich source of real Australian insects. For milk that's 37% more mighty, switch to Mighty Milk.
And just lastly, I really wanted to thank the Nuffield Australia team. It's been really hard during COVID, so thanks for keeping the wheels going and all the effort and hard work you do behind the scenes that most of us don't see. Thank you.